How do you hold back laughter when your sister claims your dead husband fathered her child? I'm Bridget Preston, 34, an interior designer in Boston, standing in my sister Cassandra's backyard, surrounded by blue balloons and stunned guests. My husband Adam died a week ago. An aneurysm stole him at 36, leaving our Victorian home in Beacon Hill hollow, and my heart emptier still. I dragged myself to my nephew Lucas's first birthday party, clutching a wrapped gift, my eyes shadowed with grief. Cassandra, 4 years younger and always chasing my shadow, announced to everyone that Lucas is Adam's son from an affair, waiving a supposed will demanding half our $800,000 house. The absurdity of it almost broke me into giggles, but not for the reasons anyone there expected. If you've ever faced family betrayal that cuts deep, you'll want to hear how this unfolds. Picture the scene. A small rental house, streamers sagging in the humid July air, my parents' faces frozen in shock. I sip water to steady myself, knowing something Cassandra doesn't, a truth that makes her claim impossible. 12 years ago, I met Adam at a charity auction for kids with cancer. I was organizing the silent auction, my clipboard a shield against chaos, when he outbid everyone for a watercolor of Boston's skyline at sunset, vibrant oranges and purples melting into the harbor. He walked over, blue eyes crinkling, and handed it to me. "You were staring at this all night," he said. "It belongs with you." That was Adam. Thoughtful, generous, the kind of man who remembered the barista's name and meant it when he asked about her day. Our first date was the next evening, a harbor walk where we talked like old friends. 8 months later, he proposed there, the skyline mirroring that painting. We were married within a year, young and certain, buying our Beacon Hill home, a fixer-upper with high ceilings and a garden I dreamed kids would play in. Financially, it stretched us. Adam had just made partner at his law firm, and my interior design business was gaining traction. The house was our canvas, each room a promise we'd paint together. Cassandra was always on the edges of our joy. My younger sister, beautiful and charismatic, carried a competitive streak that wore me down. If I succeeded, she needed to outshine me. When I started dating Adam, she chased law students. When we bought our house, she pouted about her apartment, fishing for our parents' help. They indulged her, bailing her out of jobs and relationships, which only fueled her recklessness. Adam, ever patient, urged me to keep her close. "She's your only sister," he'd say. "Family matters." I tried, but her need to one-up me was exhausting. 2 years ago, she started dating Tyler, a tattooed bartender with a motorcycle our parents loathed. Their relationship was a storm of breakups and makeups until her pregnancy announcement at Thanksgiving blindsided us. I felt the pang of envy. After our infertility struggles, she'd stumbled into what we'd longed for, but I chose to be the best aunt I could. Lucas arrived, 8 pounds, 4 ounces, and I was there with flowers and a knitted blanket, ready to love him despite the ache in my chest. Adam's death came on a Tuesday. He woke with a headache, brushed it off as a migraine, and kissed me goodbye for a client meeting. The hospital called before noon. He was gone before I arrived. The days after blurred. Funeral plans, condolence cards, and a bed too big for one. Cassandra was distant, texting excuses about Lucas being sick. I barely noticed, too lost in grief. My mother insisted I attend Lucas's birthday, saying Adam would want me to. So I went, gift in hand, forcing a smile through exhaustion. The party felt off. Guests whispered, my parents avoided my eyes. When Cassandra emerged with Lucas, her confidence was electric, her new dress catching the light. She clinked her cup, silencing the crowd, and dropped her lie about Adam and Lucas. I stood frozen, her words a punch to my already bruised heart. Yet as she waved that forged will, I felt an odd calm. Adam's foresight, a secret we'd kept, made her claim laughably false. I asked to see the document, spotting its flaws, the wrong legal jargon, a forged signature. "Oh, I see," I said, handing it back, promising to talk later. In my car, I laughed until tears fell, not from joy, but from the sheer audacity of her betrayal. The laughter faded as I drove home, leaving a hollow ache in its wake, but it was the memories of our life together that grounded me, reminding me why Cassandra's lie couldn't touch the truth Adam and I had built. For years, we had dreamed of children filling our home, but reality had other plans. We tried everything, charting cycles, doctor visits, tests that poked and prodded at our hopes. 4 rounds of IVF followed, each one a cycle of injections, anticipation, and crushing disappointment. The last failure hit hardest, the silent drive home from the clinic, Adam's hand in mine, both of us knowing we'd reached the end. That night on our porch swing, the summer air thick with jasmine from the garden, he turned to me. "We can still have a beautiful life," he said, his voice steady. "You and me? That's enough." And he meant it, pulling me closer as stars dotted the sky above Beacon Hill. We rebuilt from there, pouring energy into what we could control. Adam thrived at his firm, handling corporate cases with that humble brilliance of his, while I launched my own interior design firm, transforming spaces for clients who became friends. Our home became our sanctuary, a project we tackled room by room. We stripped wallpaper in the living room, revealing original plaster details, and I chose soft grays and blues that made the high ceilings feel even more inviting. The kitchen got granite counters and a farmhouse sink where we'd linger over coffee on lazy Sundays. Out back, the small garden bloomed under my care, roses climbing the fence, herbs in pots that scented the air. We traveled too, weekends in the Berkshires, a trip to Italy where we wandered cobblestone streets, tasting pasta and wine, laughing about how we'd make our own versions at home. Life wasn't what we'd planned, but it was full, rich with quiet moments, like Adam surprising me with breakfast in bed, or us curling up with books by the fireplace on rainy evenings. Cassandra hovered in the background, her life a contrast of chaos to our stability. At 30, she bounced between jobs, waitressing, retail gigs that never lasted, and relationships that burned bright then fizzled. Our parents fretted over her, offering money for rent or car repairs, which only seemed to encourage her impulsiveness. Growing up, she'd always competed with me, turning achievements into battles. If I got an A in art class, she'd demand praise for her sketches. When Adam and I married, she flirted with groomsmen at the reception, her laughter too loud, her dress too tight. Adam saw it, gently steering conversations away, but he insisted on family ties. "She's complicated, but she's yours," he'd say, squeezing my hand. I tolerated it, inviting her to dinners where she'd complain about her latest breakup, her eyes flicking to our home with envy. Then came her relationship with Tyler. They met at a bar where he worked. His rugged charm, tattoos snaking up his arms, that motorcycle roar, drawing her in. It was volatile from the start. Arguments echoing through phone calls she'd make to me late at night, followed by reconciliations that left her glowing. Our parents disapproved, calling him unstable, but Cassandra thrived on the drama. The pregnancy announcement hit at Thanksgiving, the table laden with turkey and stuffing, the air warm from the oven. She stood, tears in her eyes, declaring it a miracle, her hand on her barely showing belly. I swallowed the sting. After all our heartbreaks, she got this by accident, but pushed it down. "I'm happy for you," I said, hugging her, meaning it despite the envy twisting inside. Adam congratulated her politely, but later in bed he held me as I cried softly, whispering that our path was different, not lesser. As her belly grew, I stepped up, attending ultrasounds when Tyler bailed, helping pick out cribs online. Lucas's birth was chaotic, Cassandra in labor for hours, Tyler pacing the waiting room with a cigarette behind his ear. When the nurse placed Lucas in my arms, his tiny fingers curling around mine, I felt a surge of love that surprised me. "He's perfect," I whispered, knitting that blanket during quiet evenings while Adam worked late. Motherhood overwhelmed Cassandra from day one. She'd call in tears about colic or sleepless nights, and I'd drive over, rocking Lucas so she could rest. Adam was kind but distant, playing with Lucas briefly if he visited, but never holding him long. I chalked it up to our own pain, the baby a reminder of what we'd lost. He supported me helping, though, saying it was good for my heart. In those months, I noticed shifts in Cassandra. Her texts grew snippy, complaining about Tyler's absences, hinting at financial strains. Once, she asked to borrow money for diapers, and when I offered to buy them instead, she snapped that I didn't understand real struggles. Adam advised caution, help but don't enable. We didn't know then how deep her resentments ran, or how they'd boil over after his death. Looking back as I pulled into our driveway that night after the party, the house dark and silent without him, I realized our childless life had been a shield in ways I hadn't appreciated. It allowed us to focus on us, to create a bond unbreakable by lies. But Cassandra's desperation was twisting that into something ugly, and I knew I had to face what Adam had prepared for, even if it meant unraveling family threads I'd long held tight. The weight of Adam's absence pressed heavier each day, like a stone settling into my chest, but I poured myself into loving Lucas, hoping to stitch some meaning into the void. His birth had been a bright spot amid our infertility grief, and I leaned into being his aunt, bringing casseroles to Cassandra's cramped apartment, changing diapers while she napped. Lucas was a chubby, gurgling baby, his brown eyes wide with curiosity, and holding him felt like holding a piece of the future we'd lost. Cassandra struggled, her voice shaky over late-night calls about Lucas's colic or her own exhaustion. "I can't do this alone," she'd sob, and I'd drive over, rocking him until dawn so she could sleep. Tyler was barely around, often at the bar or working late, leaving her to navigate motherhood solo. I didn't judge, I just showed up, knitting that blanket through winter evenings, its soft blue yarn a promise of stability for him. Adam, though, kept his distance. He'd smile at Lucas, maybe tickle his foot when Cassandra brought him over, but he never lingered. Once when I suggested he hold him, he hesitated, saying, "It's hard, Bridge." I assumed our fertility struggles made it painful, a reminder of the children we'd never have. He supported my involvement, though, driving me to Cassandra's when she needed me, even if he stayed in the car with a book. "You're a good aunt," he'd say, kissing my forehead. Looking back, I wonder if he sensed something I didn't, his lawyer's mind always scanning for risks. His kindness was unwavering, but there was a boundary there I never questioned. Then came that Tuesday. Adam woke with a headache, his brow furrowed as he sipped coffee in our sunny kitchen. "Just a migraine," he insisted, waving off my suggestion to stay home. He had a big client meeting, a merger he'd been prepping for weeks. "I'll call you after," he said, his lips brushing mine, warm and familiar. I busied myself with the client's mood board, fabrics scattered across our dining table, until the phone rang. The hospital's voice was clinical. "Brain aneurysm, he didn't make it." I drove through a fog, arriving to a sterile room where Adam was already gone, his hand cold in mine. He was 36, and our life together, our plans, our home, felt stolen in a breath. The days after were a haze of funeral arrangements, condolence calls, and casseroles piling up in our fridge. I moved through it numbly, signing papers, choosing a suit for him, staring at his empty side of the bed. Cassandra was oddly absent, sending texts about Lucas being sick or no babysitter. She appeared briefly at the funeral, her eyes red but distant, slipping out before the reception. I barely registered it, too drowned in grief to care. My mother called daily, her voice gentle but insistent. "You need to keep going, Bridget. Adam would want that." When she pushed me to attend Lucas's first birthday a week later, I resisted. The idea of balloons and cake felt obscene so soon after burying my husband. "Family comes first," she said, echoing Adam's words. So I went, wrapping a gift, a stuffed bear with a red bow, my hands trembling as I tied the ribbon. Cassandra's rental house was in a gritty part of town, the kind where lawns went unmowed and cars sagged on cinder blocks. I parked behind a row of sedans, my eyes stinging from sleepless nights, dark circles no concealer could hide. Forcing a smile, I knocked, and Cassandra's friend Jenna answered, her expression odd, like she'd been caught whispering a secret. "Bridget, you made it," she said, glancing over her shoulder before letting me in. The house was a riot of blue streamers, a happy first birthday Lucas banner stretched across the living room. Guests milled in the backyard, holding plastic cups, their conversations halting as I passed. My parents sat at a picnic table, looking out of place, my father standing to hug me tightly. "We weren't sure you'd come," he said, relief in his voice. "Of course I did," I replied, setting the bear on a gift table piled with boxes. My mother avoided my eyes, murmuring about Cassandra bringing out the cake soon. I mingled, deflecting condolences with a nod, sensing the awkwardness in every stilted chat. People didn't know how to treat a widow at a child's party, and I didn't know how to be one. After 30 minutes of forced smiles, Cassandra emerged, Lucas on her hip, his bow tie crooked, his chubby legs kicking. She wore a new dress, her hair freshly highlighted, radiating a confidence I hadn't seen in months. She barely glanced at me, bustling around, all smiles for the guests. Then she tapped her cup with a spoon, the crowd quieting. "Thank you for celebrating Lucas's special day," she began, her voice bright. "This year's been full of surprises, and I've been keeping a secret." My stomach twisted. Something was wrong. She placed a hand on Lucas's head. "Lucas isn't Tyler's son," she said, her eyes locking on mine. "He's Adam's." The air vanished from the yard, gasps rippling through the crowd. My father stiffening beside me. The world tilted, but I stood frozen, knowing her words were a lie that could never hold. The words hung in the humid air, Cassandra's claim about Adam and Lucas slicing through the party's cheer like a blade. But it was her audacity that sparked something in me. Not rage, but an absurd urge to laugh. She stood there, Lucas balanced on her hip, her voice steady as she spun her tale. "Bridget's husband and I had a brief affair 2 years ago. A mistake, but these things happen." She reached into her purse, pulling out a folded paper she claimed was Adam's will, stating half our $800,000 house belonged to Lucas, his son. Every eye turned to me, pity, curiosity, discomfort flickering across faces. My parents looked stricken, my father half standing, unsure whether to speak. I pressed my lips together, fighting the smile tugging at them, not from joy but from the sheer impossibility of her lie. "Oh, I see," I said, my voice calm, sipping water to mask the laughter bubbling inside. I asked to see the will, scanning its clumsy wording and forged signature. Adam's flourished too exaggerated, the legal terms laughably wrong. "Thank you for sharing," I said, handing it back. "I need to go now." Cassandra blinked, her confidence faltering. "That's it? You're not going to say anything else?" she asked, confusion lacing her tone. "Not right now," I replied, grabbing my purse. "This is Lucas's day. We'll talk privately later." I hugged my shell-shocked parents, promising to call, and walked to my car as murmurs erupted behind me. The party's joy shattered. Alone in the driver's seat, I let the laughter spill out, sharp and raw, until it mixed with tears, grief, anger, and disbelief at my sister's gall. I knew something she didn't, a truth Adam and I had guarded, making her claim not just cruel but biologically impossible. As I drove home, the Boston skyline blurred through my tears, and I replayed the party's odd moments. Jenna's strained greeting, the whispers in the kitchen, my mother's averted eyes. They'd known something was coming, but not what I'd do next. The week after Adam's funeral had been a fog of sleepless nights, his absence a physical weight in our home. I'd wander the rooms we'd renovated together, the living room's soft gray walls, the kitchen where he'd cook lasagna, the garden where we'd planned a future that never came. Lucas's party was the last place I wanted to be, but family pulled me there, a duty Adam had always championed. I'd arrived raw, the stuffed bear in my hands a small anchor. The backyard was crowded, plastic cups glinting in the sun, kids running through sprinklers. I felt like a ghost, nodding through condolences, each, "I'm so sorry," a reminder of what I'd lost. The guests' unease was palpable. Conversation stopped when I approached, their eyes sliding away. I chalked it up to my widowhood, an awkwardness no one knew how to navigate. My parents' discomfort stood out, though. My father's relief at seeing me felt forced, my mother's gaze skittering to the ground. I should have sensed the tension. But grief dulled my instincts. When Cassandra stepped out, she was a vision of control. New dress, highlighted hair, Lucas adorable in his tiny bow tie. Her energy was electric, almost manic, as she moved through the crowd, ignoring me. I watched her place Lucas in his high chair, her smile too bright, and felt a chill. Her announcement came like a rehearsed performance, each word calculated to wound. "Adam knew the truth," she said, holding up the will. "He wanted his son provided for." My father's hand tightened on my arm, my mother's shoes suddenly fascinating to her. The guests' gasps were a chorus of judgment, but I felt oddly detached, anchored by a secret Adam had left me. I'd seen his real will, notarized and filed, leaving everything to me. More than that, I knew his medical history, a detail that made Cassandra's story collapse under its own weight. As I left, the weight of their stares followed me. But so did a strange clarity. I'd need to act, not just for me, but for Adam's memory. I drove through Boston's streets. The city's pulse, a contrast to my racing thoughts. At home, I sat in our living room, the watercolor painting above the mantel, catching the evening light. Adam had always been steps ahead, his lawyer's mind planning for worst-case scenarios. I thought of his quiet strength, the way he'd hold my hand during tough moments, promising we'd face them together. Cassandra's lie wasn't just an attack on me, It was an attempt to rewrite him, to tarnish the man who'd loved me fiercely. I couldn't let that stand. Tomorrow, I'd go to the bank, to the safety deposit box Adam had jokingly called our disaster preparation kit. Whatever was inside, I knew it held the tools to unravel her scheme. For now, I let the tears come, not just for Adam, but for the family I'd thought I had, and the fight I hadn't expected to face. The drive home from the party blurred into night, the city lights streaking like tears across my windshield, but it was the memory of Adam's quiet preparations that steadied me, pulling me back to truths Cassandra could never twist. 3 years ago, it started subtly, during a dinner we hosted to celebrate her new marketing job, her longest gig yet. Adam had made his famous lasagna, layers of cheese and sauce bubbling in our oven, the scent filling our Victorian home. We opened a good bottle of wine, laughter flowing as we toasted her success. I stepped away for a work call, a client panicking over artwork placement, the conversation dragging on for 20 minutes. When I returned, the air had shifted. Adam looked uncomfortable, shifting in his chair, while Cassandra sat too close, her hand on his arm, giggling at some unheard joke. I brushed it off. Wine made her affectionate, always had. But later, as we brushed our teeth in our master bath, mirrors fogged from the shower, Adam paused. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, sitting on the bed's edge, his blue eyes serious. "I don't want secrets between us." He explained Cassandra's past, inappropriate comments about how lucky I was, hinting he deserved someone who truly appreciated him. When he rebuffed her, she laughed it off as a joke, calling him too sensitive. I felt hurt but not shocked. Cassandra pushed boundaries, her competition a lifelong habit. We decided to let it slide, blaming the wine and her impulsive nature, but it wasn't isolated. Over months, she found excuses to touch him, brushing his shoulder at family gatherings, sending texts that towed the line between friendly and flirtatious. Once, she showed up at his office, unannounced, suggesting lunch, her smile too bright. Each time, Adam shut it down gently, then told me immediately, his voice calm but firm. After a particularly suggestive late-night message, he blocked her number, showing me the screen as proof. We confronted our parents, detailing the incidents in their living room, the coffee table cluttered with mugs. It went poorly. They suggested Adam misread friendly gestures, my mother even implying he might be flattered and exaggerating. "Cassandra looks up to him like a brother," she said, her tone defensive. That night, back in our garden under string lights, Adam and I chose distance without drama. We'd decline invites including her, ensure we weren't alone with her, limiting contact to essentials. It worked, mostly. Family events grew tense but manageable. Then came Adam's medical issue, a pain he'd ignored for weeks before seeing a urologist. The diagnosis, varicocele, swollen veins needing surgery. The procedure was routine, but complications arose. The doctor recommended a vasectomy during it, citing risks of recurrence and our past fertility struggles. It was a gut punch. After years of hoping for kids, this closed the door permanently. We discussed it late into the night, lying in bed with the window open to the harbor breeze. "It's for my health," Adam said, holding my hand, "and we've built a good life without children." We agreed, keeping it private. After invasive questions about our childlessness, we guarded our reproductive details fiercely. Only us and his doctors knew. Post-surgery, as Adam recovered in our garden with an ice pack, he grew thoughtful. "Cassandra's not done," he predicted, his voice low. "She might try something drastic one day." I laughed it off as paranoia, but he was serious. The next week, we visited our attorney, James Wilson, in his downtown brownstone office. Adam detailed Cassandra's advances, the vasectomy, and his concerns. James advised documentation. Journal entries with dates and quotes, printed texts, medical records. "Better to have it and not need it," he said, adjusting his glasses. We followed through, creating a file Adam called our disaster kit, stored in a safety deposit box. He updated his will officially, everything to me, copies with James. "I plan to be here for 50 more years," Adam joked as we locked the box. But his eyes held a shadow of foresight. That vasectomy, 2 years before Lucas's conception, made Cassandra's claim laughable. Adam couldn't have fathered him. Follow-up tests confirmed it. As I pulled into our driveway that night, the house loomed dark. I realized Adam's preparations were his final gift, a shield against betrayal. Grief mixed with gratitude. He'd seen her patterns clearer than I had. Tomorrow, I'd access that box, unravel her lie with facts. For now, I climbed the stairs to our bedroom. The bed still unmade from that morning and curled around his pillow, inhaling the faint scent of his cologne. Cassandra's desperation had exposed cracks in our family, but Adam's love, even in death, would mend them. Or at least arm me to fight. The morning after the party dawned gray and heavy, rain pattering against our high windows like hesitant knocks. But I rose with purpose, Adam's predictions echoing in my mind as I dressed for the bank. His disaster preparation kit wasn't paranoia. It was love, a blueprint for protection when he couldn't be here. As I sipped coffee in our quiet kitchen, the granite counters cool under my fingers, I recalled that appointment with James Wilson, how Adam had laid out Cassandra's behavior with clinical precision. The texts, the office visit, the dinner pass. James, silver-haired and sharp, had nodded gravely. Document it all, he'd advised. Medical records, too, in case paternity claims arise. Adam had chuckled then, but followed through meticulously. A journal of every interaction, dates stamped like legal briefs, quotes verbatim. She made a comment about deserving better, one entry read from that first dinner. Printed texts followed, her words flirtatious and persistent. We added the vasectomy records, confirmation tests proving sterility, and his updated will, properly notarized, witnessed by firm partners, everything to me. Just in case, Adam had said as we sealed the safety deposit box at the bank, the vault's chill air raising goosebumps on my arms. The manager, Mr. Hargrove, had known us for years, chatting about our renovations as he logged the deposit. Adam squeezed my hand. Though I planned to handle any drama myself for decades. His smile crinkled those blue eyes, but underneath was a steel I'd always admired, his way of shielding us from storms he foresaw. We kept copies with James, the originals locked away, a safeguard against the family rift we hoped to avoid. In the months after, life normalized. Cassandra's advances tapered as we distanced ourselves, her pregnancy shifting focus. But Adam's kit lingered in my thoughts now, a lifeline in grief's undertow. I drove to the bank through slick streets, Boston's traffic a snarl of umbrellas and horns. Mr. Hargrove met me at the door, his face softening with sympathy. "Mrs. Preston, so sorry about Adam. He was a fine man." He led me to the vault, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and left me in the viewing room with the box. My hands trembled as I opened it, the metal lid cold. Inside, Adam's legitimate will, crisp and official. Medical files detailing the varicocele surgery and vasectomy 2 years pre-Lucas. His journal, pages filled with neat handwriting, printed messages from Cassandra, her words damning in black and white, a letter from James verifying authenticity. At the bottom, a sealed envelope in Adam's script. "My dearest Bridget." I slid it open, tears blurring the ink. "If you're reading this, something's happened, and she's tried to hurt you. Use these to protect yourself. I love you beyond words, beyond time. Adam." His words wrapped around me like an embrace, his foresight a final act of care. I cried there, alone in that sterile room, feeling his presence in every prepared page. I copied what I needed, the will, medical records, key journal entries, and returned the originals, locking the box with a click that echoed my resolve. Then I called James, scheduling an afternoon meeting. His office was a haven of polished wood and leather-bound books, the brownstone's windows framing rainy streets. The receptionist greeted me warmly, her sympathy genuine. "Mr. Wilson is ready." James stood embracing me briefly, his cologne a faint spice. "Bridget, I was heartbroken about Adam. One of the good ones." We sat, and I poured out the party saga, sliding the forged will across his desk. He examined it, frowning. "Amateur forgery, the language is off, signature's a poor mimic. Troubling she went this far." I showed him Adam's kit contents. The real will, vasectomy proof, documentation of her advances. Adam was thorough, James said, reviewing. The vasectomy alone debunks paternity. Impossible for him to father Lucas. We discussed options, pressing charges for fraud, a felony with jail time, or handling privately. "We need more intel," James suggested. "Her motives, financial pressure?" He recommended investigator Frank Delaney, a burly ex-detective with a no-nonsense Boston accent. James called him in, and Frank arrived promptly, notepad ready. I detailed Cassandra's history, her volatility, Tyler's unreliability. "I'll dig into finances, relationships," Frank said, his pen scratching. "A few days." As I left, rain easing to mist, I felt empowered, Adam's preparations fueling my steps. Home, I wandered the garden, droplets beating on leaves, thinking of his ice pack prediction. He'd known her patterns, jealousy, manipulation, and armed me against them. Grief still clawed, but so did determination. I'd honor him by unraveling this, protecting our legacy from her desperate grasp. 3 days after meeting Frank, his call came while I was in our garden, pruning roses Adam had planted, their thorns pricking my gloves like tiny accusations. "Mrs. Preston, got some intel. Meet at James's office?" His voice was gruff, efficient, stirring a mix of dread and anticipation. I arrived to find them poring over documents on the conference table, coffee mugs steaming in the afternoon light filtering through blinds. Frank slid into business. Cassandra was drowning financially. $75,000 in debt from credit cards, loans, and Lucas's heart surgery bills shortly after birth. Her credit was trashed, loan rejections piling up, and an eviction notice loomed. 4 months' rent unpaid, deadline end of the month. Tyler had bolted to Seattle with a new girlfriend post-birth, sending sporadic $200 child support checks. "Not father material," Frank added, producing a background check, domestic violence charges from an ex, a warrant for unpaid support on another kid in New Hampshire. Worse, text printouts between Cassandra and Jenna revealed premeditation. "Adam's death sucks, but maybe my chance for what I deserve. House worth $800K now. If I play it right, nest egg for us." Details on forging the will with a graphic designer friend using Photoshop and a signature sample from an old charity auction. Bridget's always the golden child, time for my share. I felt sick, the cold calculation twisting my stomach. This wasn't spur of the moment, but a plot exploiting my grief. James leaned back, glasses perched low. Options: criminal charges, fraud, forgery, up to 5 years, or private resolution. I left with a folder heavy as my heart, calling my therapist Dr. Chen for an emergency session. Her office, filled with plants and soft lighting, became a refuge as I unloaded. Anger boiling, but Lucas innocent, Cassandra still blood. "Compassion doesn't mean victimization," she said gently. "Boundaries can coexist with kindness." I decided on confrontation, offering choices: face legal heat or retract, apologize, accept help under terms. Next morning, I called Cassandra. "We need to talk about the will. Come over tomorrow at 2, just you and Lucas." Her smugness grated. "Knew you'd come around, see you then." I prepped meticulously, arranging documents on the coffee table. Recorder ready per James's advice. Massachusetts required consent, so I'd frame it as mutual record. At 2 sharp, she rang the bell, polished in a new outfit, confidence radiating. I led her to facing chairs, water glasses gleaming. "Mind if we record, for accuracy on legal matters?" She shrugged. "Sure, whatever." I stated date, time, her consent, then dove in. "Tell me exactly what happened between you and Adam." She spun her rehearsed tale. "An affair during our troubles. Hotel meets at the Mandarin Oriental. Adam confessing unhappiness. He meant to tell you, but Lucas's heart issue." I listened, noting timeline flaws contradicting Adam's schedules. Then I probed. Hotel rooms, days, room service orders, intimate details only a real lover would know. She faltered, answers vague, snapping. "Why does it matter? The will proves it." Calmly, I opened the folder. "Both claims are false. First, medical records. Varicocele surgery, vasectomy 2 years preconception. Success confirmed." Her face paled, hands shaking as she read. "These could be faked." "They're not. Doctor will testify." Next, legitimate will. Notarized, no Lucas mention. "Yours is forgery, felony." Then journal entries of her advances, Jenna texts plotting, Frank's report on debts, eviction, Tyler's flight. She sat stunned, then sobbed. Raw, body-shaking cries. Didn't know what else. Homeless soon, bills mounting, Tyler left nothing. Anger flared. "So you destroy Adam's reputation? Forge documents?" She shouted back. "You have everything. House, business, respect. I have debt, a sick baby, eviction." Her outburst hung, stripping away manipulation, revealing desperation born of lifelong patterns. "Lucas is Tyler's?" I asked softer. She nodded. "Adam never touched me. Tried years ago, but he shut me down. Loyal to you." The will, her friend's Photoshop job to pressure money. I turned off the recorder, weighing options. I could press charges, illegal, cruel. She nodded miserably. "But Lucas is innocent, my nephew. I love him. Here's the deal: public truth-telling, no affair, no paternity, forged will, apology to me and Adam's memory. In exchange, no charges, a trust for Lucas's medical education needs, help finding housing." Conditions, therapy, financial counseling, steady job, my involvement in Lucas's life. Violation and support. Why help after what I did? She asked, eyes wide. Not for you, for Lucas, and Adam would have wanted his nephew safe, despite you. We hashed details. She'd meet James tomorrow to formalize. As she left, pausing at the door, something shifted. Not forgiveness, but a path forward. Alone, I sat in the living room, sunlight slanting across the watercolor, feeling Adam's wisdom guide me. His kit had armed me, but my choices honored us both. Protecting without destroying, boundaries firm as our home's foundations. The agreement with Cassandra hung like a fragile bridge over the chasm she'd created, and formalizing it with James the next day felt like laying the first stones, solid but tested by every step. We met in his conference room, papers spread across the table, the air scented with fresh coffee and ink. Cassandra arrived subdued. No polish or confidence, just quiet nods as James outlined the terms. Her public retraction and apology, the trust fund I'd fund for Lucas's needs. Starting with $50,000 for medical bills and education, help securing a modest apartment through a realtor friend, all contingent on therapy, counseling, steady work, and my access to ensure Lucas's well-being. She signed without protest, her hands steady despite the shadows under her eyes. "This is fair," she murmured, glancing at me. James notarized it, adding clauses for breach, support revoked, potential charges revived. As we left, Cassandra paused in the hallway. "I'll make the confession at a family dinner like you suggested." I nodded. It was time to confront the enabling that had fed her patterns. I arranged the dinner for Saturday, our dining table set with simple linens, the room warm from candles flickering against the high ceilings. My parents arrived early, my mother bearing her signature lasagna, steam rising as she set it down. "I don't know what's going on," she said, pouring wine with a worried glance, "but Cassandra's been crying about some forced meeting." "Wait until we're all here," I replied, stirring sauce in our farmhouse sink. By 7, we sat around the table. Parents, Cassandra, Lucas with a sitter, and me. I placed the recorder center, explaining its purpose for record, gaining consents. "Cassandra has something to share," I began, my voice even. She stared at her plate, then spoke softly. "I lied about Lucas being Adam's son. No affair, he's Tyler's. I forged the will." My father demanded why, his fork clattering. She detailed debts, eviction, Tyler's abandonment, voice strengthening with the raw truth. My mother's shock softened to sympathy. "Oh, honey, why not ask for help?" Cassandra's blunt reply. "Would you give $400,000? That's what half the house meant." My father admitted they couldn't, but chided her fraud. "Bridget has evidence for charges," Cassandra added. My mother turned to me, alarmed. "You wouldn't? To your sister?" Frustration surged. "I could, it's felony. But I'm family too, the one grieving while defending Adam's name." My father shifted uncomfortably. "We care, but Cassandra's always needed more." "Whose fault?" I countered. "You've bailed her out forever, enabling this." My mother gasped at the unfairness, but Cassandra interjected. "Bridget's right. You excused everything, thinking no consequences helped. It didn't." Stunned silence followed. For once, she owned it. I outlined our agreement, trust fund, housing aid, conditions. "Generous," my father said, relieved. "More than I deserve," Cassandra agreed. My mother brightened, "All working out, apology done, move on." But I held firm, not simple, trust broken, boundaries now. No more enabling, no bailouts. My tie to Cassandra formal, focused on Lucas. "Family doesn't mean tolerating abuse," I said gently. "She exploited my grief, that has consequences." Dinner ended subdued, my father hugging me tightly. "Proud of you. Adam would be." My mother hugged sadly, mourning her illusion. Cassandra lingered, "Sorry for everything, jealousy, competition, not being the sister you deserved." "I know," I replied. "Therapy might help. Why? Lucas needs a healthy mother." "Can you forgive?" she asked. "Don't know, but willing to see, for him, maybe us." A year later, standing in our garden as spring bulbs pushed through soil, daffodils Adam planted blooming yellow against green, I reflected on the seasons of change. Grief's winter had thawed, the trust covered Lucas's monitoring, his heart stable, him a toddling explorer. Cassandra embraced terms, therapy unpacked childhood patterns, self-sabotage. She managed a dental office, stable with benefits. Our interactions cordial, not close. I took Lucas to parks, museums, ensuring his joy. Parents adjusted, supporting without enabling, my mother accepting distance. Grief group became family, sharing losses over coffee, celebrating steps forward. I founded the Adam Preston Foundation, scholarships for aspiring lawyers from tough backgrounds, his legacy in their bright eyes. Friends rallied, law partners dinners, Sarah's weekends from Chicago, movie marathons easing isolation. Then Michael, at a foundation fundraiser, an ethics professor with kind eyes and humor echoing Adam's. Coffee turned dinners slow and hopeful. He understood Adam's place, love not replacement. In the garden, breeze swaying daffodils, I whispered to Adam's memory, "You prepared me. Your love protects still." Stronger now, cautious yet open. I'd learned boundaries heal, forgiveness conditional, betrayal forging resilience. Painful, but it revealed my depth, honoring him by living fully. As the garden's colors softened in the fading light, I lingered among the blooms, their petals whispering secrets of renewal. The ache of loss had gentled over time, no longer a sharp blade, but a quiet companion, woven into the fabric of my days. Lucas's laughter echoed in my thoughts, his small hand in mine during our outings, a reminder that love could bridge even the deepest rifts. Cassandra's changes, tentative yet real, spoke to the possibility of growth. Her therapy sessions peeling back layers we'd both ignored for too long. My parents, too, had shifted, their support now balanced, respecting the lines I'd drawn with care. The foundation thrived, young minds carrying Adam's spirit forward, their gratitude letters a balm on old wounds. And Michael, his presence a soft warmth, conversations unfolding like spring leaves, promising without pressure. Grief's seasons had taught me patience, the slow unfurling of hope after winter's hold. Standing there, the breeze carrying scents of earth and promise, I felt a profound peace settle. Adam's foresight, his enduring care, had guided me through storms I never foresaw. In honoring that, I'd found my own path, one of quiet strength and open heart. If betrayal tests us, it also reveals our capacity to heal, to choose compassion with wisdom. As dusk fell, wrapping the garden in gentle shadows, I turned toward the house, carrying his love like a lantern in the night. Take care, dear ones. May your boundaries hold, your healing come softly.